Morgan, holy cow, long time no see.
Hello, Nicholas. It is a Wednesday and we're live? Crazy.
Live.
Welcome back to the B2B Power Hour and a very happy Wednesday to everybody. If you're here like us, you might be a little bit rusty. So if you're here, make sure to drop a hello in chat. Say hi. This is your space as much as ours, and we want to see who's here. Say hello. Have a wonderful time today. Um, so yeah, if you're rusty about this, like we are going live, make sure to drop a little hello in chat, and we would love to hear from you, Nick.
And maybe just to prime the pump, let us
Oh
know where
yeah,
you're from and let us know what is the one thing that is getting in your way of getting to quota. And so the most common too, not to make it too easy for you guys, but is that initial message I hear all the time is really tough. And the other one is, what do you do after the first message? So in the
mm,
comments, what is the one thing you're struggling with? And we're going to go in, dive in.
dive on in indeed. All right, so Nick, hitting quota right now is a little dicey for a lot of sellers. It is the macro environment's changing. I feel like we talk with sales teams and sellers all the time that have maybe quite ambitious quotas, and that it's been changing over the past couple of months. So I think today we're just going to be diving into how to not just meet quota but exceed it, and get back to some fundamentals, some basics, some things that we've been testing out that we wanted to share, and walk away with some hopefully useful insights for hitting 200% of quota, even in the next couple
Yeah.
of weeks.
And it's funny. And I think what really primed me to want to do this is, and Morgan, you know this more than anyone else. My original question that started this whole journey was, how do you succeed in sales and not kill yourself in the process?
Hmm.
Because everybody pushes hustle. Everybody goes and says, skip lunch, go and, you got to wake up at 3 a.m. and do this bullshit workout routine that's not even realistic and pretend to be everything you're not. But that's not what actually it takes to be in sales. And the most common advice I hear right now is, hey, I really want to go and hit quota.
Mm.
Oh, yeah, well, you just need to do more activities.
Just more,
But
more,
what
more, baby.
activities?
Hmm.
And so I think today, what I really want to do with you, Morgan, in this workshop, and for all you sellers that are tuning in, whether it's live or later, hey, Jeffrey, is I really want to peel back the onion of what it means to work consistently towards a goal. Because I will tell you, one of the biggest things that got in my way in this journey, especially going from field sales to virtual, was the sprints. I always found myself trying to juggle between sales development and then nurturing my pipeline and moving stuff forward. And it was everywhere. And I just felt like I did not have enough time in the day to do everything that was expected of me. And so I had to really rethink my approach to it. And of course, everybody's like, well, maybe if marketing was doing their job, it would
What?
be a lot easier, get those inbound leads. And yeah, of course, like it is nice to get good inbound leads. But what if it's just you?
Hmm.
And so this is the premise of today's workshop is, how do you set yourself up for success? Doing those consistent daily activities that are based on data, not bullshit that somebody just said do more. So you know where you're getting your best return on effort, and also realizing the numbers, how much. So hopefully I won't bore you guys too much in the data, but I found this to be, Morgan, when we've done the pipeline math,
Hmm.
how would you
Hmm.
say that, do you think does it surprise you sometimes when we do that with companies?
I do have a quick story to share because I think this is useful for everybody. Where we're starting today are some numbers. As PJ said, more wrong activities is what we're trying to avoid here. Um,
Yes.
we were with a company not too long ago, and we had all the primary support people in the room. So executives plus some marketing folks, the sellers, the sales director, etc. And we did this math. And there was a moment in the conversation where I looked around the room and I saw everybody's eyebrows go like this. They just went through the roof. They were like, "What? Wait, we need to hit, like, yeah. We understand our target revenue or we understand our individual quota, but to take it back to what you need to do every day or every week or what you need to be managing at every one time, I think provided a lot of clarity and a bit of a wake up call for some people in the room for the kinds of stuff that needs to happen. So, shall we dive on in? And I feel like we've
Let's do it.
previewed this enough. All right.
Okay. So the reason I do pipeline math, and I did it for myself, was to know how much is really enough. And so it helped me goal set, whether on a daily or weekly or monthly basis, because I didn't care about quota. I cared about a rolling 12. And so if I was, and I was never having to worry about restarting from fresh. I didn't care if that's how they did it because I wanted to keep consistent pipeline. So it changed the whole game for me when I did this. And what I did is I looked at quota. Okay. So let's say your quota's $1 million. Well, most people do all of their metrics, including managers, off baseline. And we're not going to go into whether or not that's realistic or whatever, because I'm not
Yeah,
paid enough.
sometimes it's
Neither you're
not.
not paid enough. So we're just not going to go there. But
Yeah.
what is your quota? Times it by two. And why I do this is you get a buffer. So let's say your quota is $2 million. Now, how do we know how many deals we need?
Average contract value, maybe?
Ooh, a good one. So
Average deal size?
if we went and divided that out, so in the comments, if you don't mind, what is your average contract value? Initial
Mm.
new business. Nothing on retention or growth right now.
Hmm.
Because that's a big push for everybody. Everybody wants new business, new logos, grow their market share. What do you think, Morgan? Want we
Well,
do a nice easy number?
100K?
Let's do it.
100K it
So,
is.
so how many would we need, Morgan? If the world was perfect and there was a magical world that, like made people just buy instantly,
Oh,
what would that
wouldn't we
be?
love that?
How
For a
many
$2
how many
million
deals would we need?
quota?
Yeah, at a hundred
Yeah.
thousand dollars of average contract value.
God, I hope I'm good at math this morning, but that's 20 deals, according to my mostly working brain.
And this next part gets really interesting. So in enterprise sales, and everything's a little bit different, but in enterprise sales, it used to be 1 in 3 was your win rate because it was you and whoever else was in the RFP or whatever, depending on the size of company you're dealing with. Public companies made it so they had to go and have comparisons. So you're always guaranteed to be thirds. Since COVID and since the downturn, I've noticed that most of the companies we talk to, it's slumped. Some are between 1 in 5 and 1 in 8. Some as high as 1 in 10.
Hmm.
So, and then S&P mid market, depending on your company, yeah, brand value. Like we won't go into too much detail. The benchmark right now that I'm seeing is somewhere between 1 in 10 and 1 in 25.
Woof. That's just rough, Nick.
Sounds like marketing leads. Just kidding.
Oh, wow. No,
Just
it sounds like
kidding.
sales is qualifying marketing leads as qualified opportunities. That's that's the truth.
So
Mm.
let's these numbers are live. They're not static. So we look at past performance to give us an idea of a benchmark where we're starting. So let's just
Mhm.
say 10%. So 1 in 10.
Mhm.
So if I only win one out of every 10 opportunities that I put into my pipeline, but I needed 20 deals to close to go and hit my goal, how many do I need?
200.
200. So Morgan, would I need to have 200 in there like right now at any given time?
Uh
That's a
to
lot.
It's a lot, Nick. That's correct. It's a lot of deals all at once.
And
What do
I
you
don't
think?
know if somebody told me that, like, it'd be so overwhelming because, like, you're like, well, I need at least 5 people in the buying committee
Mm,
minimum. Like, if it, and then do I need to find anybody else? So, like, 200 times five, if not times 10. So now we're at like 2,000. Oh my God, it's just too
so
much.
many people. Yeah.
So, how can we make this number more manageable so that we have a consistent number that we're working with? What else could we look at, Morgan?
Well, the 200 is per year. So we could break it down to a quarter maybe, or a smaller chunk of time instead of trying to think about all, 200 deals
Smaller.
over the course of 12 months.
I like that smaller
Maybe.
chunk of time. So what could that
Mhm.
chunk of time be? If you had to be at any given time, you had to know how much had to be in your pipeline. What would be a good number that we would want to know? Because, of course, we always put everything in the CRM, right? So we can pull this data.
Right? Right? Yeah.
All the RevOps people and sales
They're like,
managers are sitting there. Did you update your CRM? I mean, I've never been guilty of
no,
that.
it
I'm like,
sounds like you've only ever escaped that kind of call.
yeah,
you know, I I think a quarter might even be a little too long of time.
but it depends. So if it's a rolling,
Hmm.
and I don't give a shit about quarters or a year or anything of those useless numbers, because that's for management. It means nothing to me as a seller. It
Yeah.
actually belittles me as a seller and actually holds me back. So if I go and get rid of those constraints and I think about what is the rolling number I need to have, that I need to be working with to know I'm on track, what number would I need to know from the CRM, from my past performance, or the AEs that I'm serving if I'm an SDR? What
Mm,
number would you want to know, Morgan? Any guesses or in the chat?
good question. I'm here to learn. I don't know.
Cycle length. Because if you think about it, if I needed 200 deals, and let's say my average cycle is 6 months, that means I need 200 deals for the whole year. So of those deals, how much do I need at any given time to get to that year?
Hmm.
Well, if
A
it's six
hundred.
months, that's, we could, if you want to go and make a percentage, that's 6 divided by 12. So that's 50%. So that means I need 50% of my overall goal at any given time sitting in my pipeline. And if I have that, that is the only number I need to care about.
That's
So
interesting because
now,
obviously, if you're selling SMB, your cycle length is probably a lot less. So chances are you might have a higher percentage of your overall quota at any one time. Whereas enterprise deals, well, actually inversely, but if you have an enterprise deal whose cycle length is like 18 to 24 months, you have to think about this differently than just, you have to think about, okay, how am I pacing myself to hit those numbers more or less?
but it depends,
Hmm.
because what are you factoring? Are you factoring a full sale? Well, most of the
Hmm.
companies I'm talking to don't get a full sale. They get a pilot. And most pilots are implemented within 90 to 180 days. It's not 18 to 24 months.
Hmm.
So there are ways to go and make this more manageable by knowing your buyer's journey. And this is why I love the numbers, is because and I don't want to get too obsessed with them, but as Morgan knows, I like to be more structured because I felt in control. And for example, you know, if I wanted, I'm like, holy shit, like 100 is just too many to have actively pursuing. Because, in all honesty, guys, and I've told you this before, Morgan, like my sweet spot is usually somewhere between 3 and 5 active accounts, mid to late pipeline.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's all that I can be really mentally aware in enterprise deals. So if we think about now, that's 100. How could we make that number more manageable? How could we manipulate that? What would need to happen?
Well, if it's 100 at any one time, given a 6 month cycle length, we probably should maybe reverse engineer it to like what we need to do to generate 100. Um, Also understand where we currently are with our existing accounts and be honest about it. Like, yeah, this deal isn't going anywhere. Um, disqualify more than qualify. Those are
Ooh,
some
okay.
ideas.
So if we disqualified more ruthlessly,
Hmm.
what would be an assumption that what might happen? What might be a result of that?
Our close rate would go up.
Ooh, so what happens if we went from 10% to 20%?
A lot less deals at any one time.
But see, this is why knowing the numbers, it will actually track back. And the
Hmm.
other thing is sales cycle length. If you start paying attention to which activities, not just bullshit that your manager preaches, because that's a waste of time, but like actually looking at which activities drive value for your buyer, which actually helps the buying experience. You had sent me a brilliant one, a post, and I know Megan Mishiak goes and talks about this, but doing value workshops. I can't remember the gentleman's name, but he had talked about how adding in a value workshop into his sales cycle took it when they went to go internally to go and discuss. Now brought him as part of that discussion as a trusted advisor, provided more feedback, provided more competitive knowledge, and reduced sales cycle lengths, and of course, win rate.
Hmm.
So that's when we start working in this world and we're now watching our numbers. It's no longer you don't have to care about the company with
I
it.
mean, you
So
kind of do, but like,
but but now this is how you gamify it with yourself. This is what makes it fun. So let's just go back to the 100.
yeah,
So why is it so hard to open 100 accounts?
I would say the number one thing I continue to hear is I have no idea who to talk to, or like how to earn that first conversation, or who to earn that first conversation with in order to move it from something vaguely like, hey, this is somebody I think we should sell to this is a qualified opportunity for our company.
Oh, there's no demand. There's no interest. There's no intent. There's no trigger. There is the assumption that you're amazing and that they should want to buy from you. This is what kills sales development from the start. It's not understanding why people buy and why they would specifically buy from you. Because if they understand why they buy in general, the actual category, why whatever the change you're trying to make is better, maybe it enhances a process or it reduces the amount of people required in that process to go and have the impact that the company requires. But then it goes that level deeper of why you. And this is where think of like if you were going to court, tort law says the only thing you can do is bring written documentation, not your opinions. Nobody cares about your opinions. So if you take all of your marketing bullshit, throw it out the window, and you
Ooh,
take what actually is true, what was actually said to you that was written in a testimonial, why do people pick you? One of the best things I ever did by accident, happiest accident in my sales career, is I took my lead service, customer success service person out for lunch every 2 weeks. And all I asked is, who do you love working with and who gets it the fastest?
so good.
I wish we would have had the tools we have now because what I would have done is, take turn those meetings into recordings and did 2-minute like video testimonials for late funnel. Because then it's like, why do we love Amazon reviews? We want to know what the actual buyer thinks, not what the seller or the marketing team is telling us, right?
Hmm.
So now we have that. So if we could really dial that in and get really into targeting, identifying the right people, that changes the whole game because then you have a legitimate reason to interrupt their day and prioritize them because it really is in their best interest because their peers said so, not you. And you have the
This re-
numbers to back it up.
this reminds me of a classic. The only reason I know this is because I was pulling a quote from it for something we were doing on the B2B Power Hour. But I think it's like more than 100 episodes ago, you had made this offhand comment. I think this is episode number 56. Oof, that's a while back. That you can spend 30 hours prospecting a week, but if you're only getting hits 20% of the time, was it really worth it? And I think to to this point, like the goal to work towards, what it sounds like, is taking all the available information you might have about the kinds of people who are most likely to buy. If you don't have access to customer success, although I say that's definitely the gold standard, maybe it's your inbound leads, the inbound leads that convert, not just the inbound leads that don't go anywhere, but like the kind of deals that come off of existing demand programs. Can you match up off of that? I mean,
I have a sneaky hack. No, I have a sneaky hack for this.
okay, but and then turning that around into useful targeting information, so the amount of time you're spending every week isn't just getting ghosted, or waiting around for somebody to get back to you, or having miss after miss, which has its own emotional and psychological toll.
Yeah. And all I do is I create a list of 10 and I pick those 10 best fit accounts
Mm.
and I actively work them to see if I can get any type of intent where are they willing to talk to me as a seller? Do they see the need to change? Do they are they starting to articulate what that those problems look like in their business? If not, then I move them out of that top 10. I stop focusing on them because I'm not getting traction and I want to keep that bridge intact and my reputation.
Mhm.
But if you're wondering who to talk to, here's a fun hack. The other sellers are going to go in here and they're like, Nick, shut up. Don't tell this one. But in Sales Navigator, when you do all of your criteria for a good fit account, if you know from doing the why they buy from you, there's a piece in there called connections of.
Hmm.
And what you can do is a saved search, not a lead list, a saved search of your top competitors, top sellers. And what you watch is to see who is connecting with them on LinkedIn to see where they're getting traction and with what personas. So now you're getting market research delivered to you on a daily basis of accounts and personas.
Okay, so just to clarify really quick, because you've never even brought this up to me. We're
Yeah, I
live.
can't
This
give
is the
away all
first
my
time.
secrets.
Hey, what the heck, man?
It
So,
makes it more fun in these types of conversations. You're like, how do you
y-
know that? Oh,
oh
I
well,
never stop reading.
I'm just brilliant. So what you're doing is you have a list of leads. Oh, excuse me. Sorry. You know. Okay, hold on. I actually need to clarify this because it is the saved search of the target leads filtered by connections of your competitor's top seller, or is it a saved search of your competitor's top seller filtered by connections of a prospect? I think it's
So
the first one.
it's the first one. So
Okay.
the only caveat is you have to be connected to them. But
Yes, to the top
peers love
seller.
to
Yeah.
connect with peers.
Yeah.
And as long
That's
as you're
not that
being
hard.
respectful, like it doesn't matter. Like it doesn't hurt.
That's
But
so smart. That's
I've been doing that
because
for a
now
while.
so just to
And so just so
clarify,
you know, you can only put
yeah.
one competitor per saved search.
Okay. But
And
basically,
so
if you know you have a list of leads that you're targeting, you can create a safe search to see where your competitor's top seller is gaining traction, because it automatically updates that this top seller is now connected to XYZ person you're trying to target, which is like real time market intelligence. Nick, we should be charging for this workshop. What the hell, man? That's brilliant.
this even gets more fun. So what you do is you go on G2 or any third party uh, rating site.
Hmm.
It could even be Glassdoor, like anything, and look at who are the companies are being compared to in what category. Then what you do is you go in there and you go to their website, or you go and pour through those. You can even use Chat GTP 3 for this one, or Chat any
Hmm.
any AI, and you look at what sellers get mentioned or what executives get mentioned, and then what you do is you nurture them, get connected, and there's your market research. And now you can slowly map out your buyer persona. And if you do it right by that account, you can also write the situation, because you'll actually get to dive into these conversations and you'll have testimonials. So real words that they actually said. No, try hard Tammy, just real world Sammy, I guess.
Yo, you've had that one in the back of your pocket for a long time, I
No,
think.
that
No,
was that the try
real.
hard Tammy was all you, but I just,
I mean, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
the famous BS marketing persona you're handed.
But
Uh,
that's part 1. That's where you're getting strategic and you're targeted, and there's no intent. There's no trigger per se. This is how I even work with assigned accounts,
mm,
because most companies, there's an installed base. They already have something there. Who and why? And there's how I'll start my market research. So this is how we automate the tough stuff, so that we can spend a half an hour a week doing this type of work to set ourselves up for the next week. But the one thing that really, really made me struggle when I first made the shift from field sales to virtual was volume. When I was working in investment banking, because most of my deals were 50 to 300 million, I was dealing with a very small number of accounts, very small. When I started to go and do other enterprise sales, because as teams are smaller, I had to do such higher volume that it was really tough to prioritize. And so I started asking myself, what could I do that would allow people to opt in instead of me to hound them? And are there any places that they go, or is there anything I could do that I could do instead of doing one to one, which as sellers we excel at, that we could pretend to be a marketer, show them how it's done, and prioritize our list for that one to one? What do you guys think? Comments. What could we do as sellers that would be in it would show someone is interested in having a conversation with us, or that we have trust and credibility in the category that we work in?
hmm,
What do you think,
it's a good
Morgan?
question. Well, naturally, I think the answer is you create a graphic about how great your product is and then spend 5 grand promoting it on LinkedIn, right? That's what you're supposed to do. That's that's
Oh,
the
is that
that's
how
the
it works?
thing.
I thought you
Yeah.
created just a generic learning and development worksheet, or not even a worksheet, like a document, and then you download it and you call it buying intent, and then you have to go and hound them for the rest of your life. Isn't
Or
that
you
how it
get
works?
enrolled into the multi-generational sequence where
That is my favorite.
that's the way to do one to many, folks. Anytime somebody downloads your ebook, make sure their kids get their emails when you die. Like, it's just endless nonsense. No, I'm just kidding.
I cheated for this, just to let you guys
Okay.
know. One of the companies I worked with, they had a really good customer base. And they also invested a lot into service to go and build those ongoing relationships and to reduce churn. So I went and talked to my service rep. You might notice a theme here. And I asked, like, who do you have a really good relationship with that you work all the time that was part of that initial buying process? And so they gave me a couple names, and all I needed was 5. And then after that, like, you could do more if you wanted, but I just asked them, you personally, where are you going to learn and develop your professional skills? Who do you trust? And consistently across, LinkedIn was in the top 3. Of course, there was like HBR and some of these other articles that were like major publications that would come up, even YouTube. But LinkedIn was very consistent because it was the only place that they told me that they got real insights or real conversations from their peers. I don't know if everybody would say that now, but
But
but that was what it was. So I'm like, okay, well, so if we think about, let's just say LinkedIn, as a seller, using LinkedIn for research is a powerful tool. But how could we know if someone's interested? So if we had a list of 100 and we had to pick 5 to target this week, what would show us that we should pick that one? What could we look for?
They viewed our profile.
Ooh, good one. Yes, that I would put that on right on the top.
They posted content.
That could be another
Um,
one, yeah.
they showed up in the comments of your favorite influencer. I mean, there's some more manual ones here, but profile view is definitely top in terms of like automatic data.
I would say the ones you're talking about is that they're using the platform, their signs of life,
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily that there's a problem or they're interested in you.
Mm.
But if they're not interested directly in you, who else might they be interested in that ties to you?
There are people at your company following your company page.
Following your company page, which, funny enough, are actually filters in Sales Navigator.
Yes, they are.
And what is there any other one you can think of that might be really good? I think you had actually said it.
Posting content.
I think you had mentioned
That's a signs of life. Oh
connected
no.
with you, like first degree connections.
Oh, first degree. Sure. Yeah.
So in your accounts, do you have any first degree connections that you could leverage to go and start the process, get introductions, and start your research?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So what I do is I use these in saved searches so that every week, as I'm doing more marketing activities, it actually signals to me that was there. So I might not want to talk to everyone that views my profile, but I might want to talk to my buying personas. So I would use personas in Sales Navigator. You could even use like other intelligence tools like Zoom Info or Cognism. But just talking about Sales Navigator, they're in spotlights. There's one that's viewed my profile in the last 90 days. Then you put all of your other characteristics that they need to fit for someone you want to talk to. Now, if you keep that as a saved search, it is now a dynamic list that keeps growing. And anytime somebody new pops in that list, it turns green and it says new.
Mm-hmm.
And then with people that follow your company, you do the same thing, but it's a separate list. And
Hmm.
think of it like trolling for fish. But what this does is it frees it up to show people like, and I'm sure everybody's seen this too. If you use Outreach or Sales Loft, any of your sales, any of the SEPs, is that as you're out cold calling, emailing, and putting somebody in a sequence, if they view your email 3 times, you can actually go and prioritize them for a phone call. Well, this is
Mm.
kind of the same idea, but this is before they were even interested. And so what I do is I try to be really, really clear on who those 5 to 10 people are, and I'd rather be researching the companies that are already showing signs of interest or want to talk to me. And so this really frees up your time to focus on those activities that are one to many or one to few so that you can go bigger. So, Morgan,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to laugh because I still do these 3 plays, but
Oh yeah.
now if you have those saved searches set up, what could you do to go in as a think of more marketing actions? What could we do to get more exposure and awareness so more people get to know about us and we build credibility at scale? What is something we could do on LinkedIn in particular?
Show up in the same place as they show up. So commenting
Let's-
mostly.
Ooh, okay. So commenting's good, and from what I've been told, the algorithm still rewards it. I'm not
I
really sure because content reach has been brutal the past couple months, but
Yeah, it's
it's
such a
okay. You'll be
black
able to
box,
pay
man.
for it soon, so it's all good.
Yeah.
But commenting,
Rough.
but where would you want to comment, Morgan? If you're unknown and you're new
Mhm.
to an industry,
Mhm.
what could we do as an individual that would make it easier to open conversations?
Find the thought leaders.
The people they already trust, which in
Mhm.
psychology is that trust through association.
Mhm.
But I don't want to piss them off, Morgan. So how do I do that in a respectful way?
You? You don't wanna piss them off?
But I'm sure, like we hear sellers say it all the time, is they want to be
Yeah,
respectful. That's why they don't comment on those influencers' posts.
sure.
And the one thing I say is you're forgetting it's about a category. It's not about ego.
Yes.
So going back to the market research conversation, like if you know people trust that person, that's where they're going for their professional development and they're going to, get their daily dose of information.
Hmm.
Well, if they see them talking to you, constantly engaging with you, having thoughtful, like meaningful conversations, you'll get that trust through association and you'll also get that reach. And
Yes.
if you're going through and adding comments to their comments, other people that have commented in, and you're not trying to sell, and all you're trying to do is that basically that problem category fit,
Hmm.
not problem product, problem category. So what solution category are you in?
Hmm.
And you're just trying to become known for that. Will Allred of Lavender did this incredibly well. Jen Allen did this incredibly well for Challenger and now
Yes.
Lavender. And like I could name a whole bunch of different names that built reputations on living in the comments with other influencers and becoming recognized for that. So that's a really easy way because now if they like what you're saying, we've both seen this, Morgan, right? They go and a lot of the time they'll just connect with you and start
Oh
a
yeah.
conversation.
Oh yeah.
But if they
Well,
don't, a lot of the time they'll look at your profile still. And
yep.
depending on how you have your profile set up, this could be your own internal website
Hmm.
that is at bottom of funnel answering why you versus the other sellers? Why would I go and work with you? And then a little bit deeper of why this category of solution versus anything else, not
Yes.
the product.
And if you're feeling uncomfortable, it's always fine to just respond to other people's comments. Like you don't have to just engage with the thought leader. You can just show up in the same space and find something and Target had commented and respond to that instead of engaging more broadly. But either work and either work best consistently. So it's just important to add this into the daily mix. And can I asterisk this really quick before we go on to the second one? Which is the reason this works isn't because you're engaging with them like on a one-to-one basis, because that's kind of that's like why it feels like that's why it works. The reason it works is as I just want to tie this thread. You had said that it's where people go to learn and engage. And if you think about like a big conference or a networking event, it's an opportunity to have those same kinds of conversations just digitally because they've showed up to learn and engage. They're enrolled in the activity of the platform.
It's actually bigger than that. I that's where my original assumption was that, but what I realized is that the individuals that are eager and ongoing, like they really have that, they want to learn. They're hungry. They're also
Hmm.
early adopters and they're more open to change. So the
Mm.
people that are going on a consistent basis to learn are who we actually want to engage with because they are the ones that will champion deals and if not help us break in with some momentum. So it actually became even a bigger surprise as I started networking and working this theory out to see if it actually was a reality, not just something that I assumed, like, most books that are written. Oh, I'm sorry. Sneeze there.
We got a little spicy takes here today. I like it. All right. So,
And then the next one
commenting and influencers.
is just social listening.
Mm,
Problemware posters. And honestly, where this came from was like when we used to go and finish in the bullpen at the end of the day. Can't say I love that in working environment, but you had that team atmosphere and trust. So what did you do with your team after work when you had a beer?
just
You
talk about
complained
what
about your
happened.
day,
Yep.
but you're not doing, sometimes you do it because you just need to get it off your chest, but the other reason you do it is because you don't understand why it's happening.
Mm,
There are a lot of people on LinkedIn, Twitter, WhatsApp, Slack channels. This is why it pays to know where your people are going to learn. And not only where they're going to learn, but where they're going to share their feelings, their learnings, and everything else. I don't know, you can call it their commonplace journal if you want, the place where they're putting all of their ideas in a non-app, like they're clarifying what they're thinking and they're trying to get help. And so when they're putting this out there, you can find it. You can search for it because it's in the digital world. And they're asking for a conversation. You're not forcing a conversation. And we've seen this, Morgan, where I've caught someone like in the middle of like a really good post conversation, and it was on a really sensitive topic, like I hate cold calling, or I'm tired of volume, or my manager could just be a CRM because they don't actually coach or do anything useful. Like I've heard all of it. But when you go and find those using Boolean searches on LinkedIn or even just Googling it, surprise, surprise, you can actually find these conversations in articles, posts, videos,
Mm,
all of these
mhm,
podcasts, even that
mhm.
now they're active, real conversations. And it's not he said, she said, it's what was said. And so now they're asking and inviting because they're building in public that they want to understand that problem. They don't want to get something shoved down their throat because they're thinking it's an opportunity to sell. We've all seen that in the comments. Oh, really? You're talking about sales development? I would love to go and sell you my sales intelligence tool. It's like, thank you, have a
Oh,
nice day, and screw
yeah.
off.
Yeah,
What they really
uh-huh.
want is they want to understand that problem better, and they want to understand why it's a problem. What are the symptoms of that problem that are getting in their way of getting a promotion, getting paid more, just enjoying going to work? And once you figure out those and a possible category that could be a solution, it naturally takes it down this yellow brick road of wonderfulness. And they click their shoes, and next thing you know, they're home, and that home is this beautiful promotion that they've always wanted. And you were part of that process. And if you want to see what this could look like in more detail, follow Nate Nasrallah and look at his buyer enablement content. And he goes really deep into this, and it's very illuminating.
Mhm.
But these are those bigger ways that can go and bring people to you. Now, the other thing to consider is even if they look at your profile, where do you want them to go? Is there a way to get them to that you want to book meetings with you? What one thing that marketing does all the time is they create resources. And you probably see this with a lot of people outside of the people doing side hustles. Is there's a lot of people that will create their own little cheat sheets or guides or checklists or worksheets. And what it is that first step of taking that knowledge and putting it into action. You're finding those change makers as people that want to do something about it. And then what we want to watch is how many levels deep do we need to go to get that level of change where it becomes an opportunity more often than not. And this is why tracking those numbers and doing it at a big scale brings people to you. But this is only 50%. The other 50% is prospecting. Like they do tie in, like you do both of them together. And I would say this is the modern sales development because it's a perfect hybrid that is buyer centric. It's really putting them first and showing up where they need you to be, not just picking up the phone because it's easier for your company to track you.
Right,
So,
and I just
yeah,
to
go ahead.
kinda what's the if I was a corporate speaker, what would I say here? Um, just to impact this. It's one of my favorite corporate synergy phrases. It's dumb. But anyways, just to reinforce this idea, one thing that you and I have continued to run into is that buyer preferences have changed a lot since COVID. And I think
Even the
sales
last six
organizations,
months.
yeah, and I think sales organizations are playing a big catch up to it. So I would really encourage everyone to take received wisdom or cultural wisdom as received wisdom or cultural wisdom and not high and mighty God's written word on stone tablets, because the ways that a seller should interact with a prospect is very different today than they were previously. And that's for a lot of reasons. It's buyers are more digitally native, sellers can be more automated, sales organizations can be more automated, so buyers are overwhelmed by the amount of pitches they get, so they don't know what to respond to. There's a bunch of adoption issues where buyers will go to specific niches but only some of them, so emailing them out of the cold feels weird. I mean, there's a lot of changes since 2019 in the ways buyers buy, and that's why it's, you know, by and large pretty difficult, unless if you scale it, to really earn a meeting in traditional field sales methods. Simple as that.
Yeah, and tying into that, like when I started to think through the full buyer's journey, I was no longer limited to 3 to 5. I could
Mhm.
actually do significantly more because my content and all these other pieces could be repurposed and reused. And so they actually went further.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
now I could use them for little video snippets. I could go in, you know, have they would be at different stages, and it allowed me to work a lot smarter. But I'm sure you guys are sitting here going, "Okay, Nick, you talked a lot about marketing. I thought this was sales." And the one thing you want to keep, just seeing, so like dogs were barking.
Oh.
The one thing you want to go and really keep into account is how are you prioritizing the people you're actually talking to from sales development? So think about the people you're strategically targeting, those 10. How do you make sure they're the right 10? And also those individuals, how do you make sure that those are the right people? Well, one of the things that I started doing is I started tracking how many people did I need to talk to per account before I got a meeting. And I found out that, depending on the what segment I was selling into, and you know, and what geo, it changed. And so then I knew that, if right now it took 8, that means when I'm doing my account mapping, I needed a minimum of 8 people to get started, because that would set me up for success. And then if I knew that it would take on average 5 or 10 messages before I'd get a conversation that led to a meeting, then I would start to go and break it down. And what it actually trickled down to at the end of the day is I needed to have 5 meaningful conversations a day to go and get the amount of opportunities I needed to hit quota. So you got to go and do these numbers, and you got to figure it out for you. And how I prioritize these is I wanted to talk to people that actually wanted to talk to me.
What?
And I know it's crazy, right? Because if you think about, like, if they have a product or a problem product fit, they're qualified. So then you're going to be moving them on. But the first step of qualification is, do they even want to talk to you, and how do they want to talk to you? So I actually created myself 3 buckets, and it follows Ryan Reiser and many others that I've talked to. And I actually use Sales Navigator because before the CRM integrations existed, it was just so much easier to let it live there. And so I actually had new accounts and I had working accounts. The moment I assigned personas, people, to that account, then I would now go and put them into working. And then the moment that I moved that lead just from somebody that I would want to talk to, but actually had done some type of outreach or tried to engage with them, now I was working. They were in sequence. And once they responded, I moved them to priority. Now, if you have marketing, sales development, people that you can work with, I also kept a nurture list as well. And what I would do is every once in a while is I would share that list with them so that they could go and put them back into some type of sequence that wouldn't waste my time or consume my time because I needed to spend it wisely. But all I did is every day when I was not doing the marketing side, I was doing my direct sales side, is I would book a half an hour or an hour consistently every day, and I never missed it. And I would start in my priority bucket because there are people I was already engaging with that wanted to talk to me, to see how I could move it forward, provide them additional information, or keep earning trust and credibility. And then once I was done going through all those, I would go to my working bucket and I'd try to re engage, find ways to go and talk to them. And through a lot of trial and error, I found out, based on that number of how many accounts I needed to work at any given time and how many people I had to talk to get a meeting and open the door, is I needed somewhere between 50 and 100. For me, it was always somewhere between 50 and 60. That was my minimum. So if I always had 50 to 60 individuals in that working bucket, I was good. That was my float. And that meant that I need to have typically somewhere between 5 and 10 accounts. Some of the stuff I did in the past, it was actually as high as 20 to 25, but it was because I was tracking those numbers that I could see consistently if I was working on the sales development side, that if I had that much in my hopper, that on the actual pipeline side, it translated to having enough that it would work out. The thing that I never expected from doing this process is that I got enough pipeline with this consistency piece. That's why I say like your float is it reminded me of professional sports. And so if I went and hired a team, and I say I had ten prospects sitting on my bench that wanted to buy from me and one bowed out, I looked
Mhm.
at what was the value of that sale to me, what was the chance of it closing, contract value and sales length, and I was like, who do I have in my bucket that's getting close that I could replace them with that's equal or better? And
Pulling
it
them up from the
changed,
minor leagues. Yeah.
but it changed the whole game because then it was like, well, now my identification was getting better and my engagement was getting cleaner and more thorough and more structured to what they needed. So my ACV started creeping up. So my average contract value went up actually over 200%. My win rate went from honestly not good. Like it was kind of pathetic the first time I checked on this. So just a warning, if you guys do this, I'm in the same boat that you might be in. And I actually got it up to just over 60%. But it was because I was ruthlessly disqualifying people that weren't a good fit to start with.
Hmm.
But but since I got
Mhm.
myself out of that survival mode where I just need pipeline, and now I had enough time to breathe and think about it, and I started to score things, it changed the whole way I was building pipeline. It allowed me to do these marketing activities because I knew from talking to these prospects, mid to late funnel, what were the objections? What were they struggling to sell internally? Where were the things that they were getting stuck on with legal? Did I need to bring in legal sooner? Like all these things started to identify. The thing that I regret is I never talked to other sellers in this process,
Hmm.
because if I would have talked to other sellers and if and within the same team and we would have talked about this, all the trial and error they were doing, especially if they were even doing remotely the same type of data collection that I got to learn from their mistakes, from their wins, and we got to share. And now we could learn as a team to get better. And one of the things I've noticed with the companies that we work with is when the sales team does exceptionally well and it gets people's, get grabs their attention, those underperforming pieces of the puzzle get called out.
Every
And
time.
so
Yeah.
if marketing was doing exceptionally well, but sales was the one that was holding everything up, or even service, it now stands out and it allows you to get that investment that you need to go and make your job easier. So I found that as I started to get better, marketing started to ask me how they could help. And it was just this snowball that started to pick up and it just got better and better and better. And so that's why when you say how to create your roadmap to 200% quota, is it's 50% marketing, 50% sales development, and what you're doing is you're only prioritizing the really high impact, worth the effort people for that to make that list. And then your other lists are only those people that have raised their hand and showed that they are genuinely interested in learning more or their intention is to buy sooner than later. And so now you have your two lists that you are like a growth engine, this machine of performance that you're only focusing on what's actually working because you've tracked everything and everything is based on reality, not some bullshit number they pulled out of their ass. And
Mhm.
now it's not more activities, it's which activities. And you really get to dial in this process. And the thing that I loved is once I got there, I felt calm. I felt proactive because I was on top of it. And now I got to go and build the business, my pipeline. That's what I treated it. It was like my business because it was my income. And
Yeah.
I could invest into buying different software for myself. I could go and get somebody to write content for me. I could go and, start a podcast if I wanted to back then. It wasn't a thing, but knowing what I know now, I would. So it's really critical to do this sprint because you'll learn a lot fast. And the moment that you don't feel attacked, you don't feel like you're stuck or struggling, is when you start to really invest in yourself to get better. And so I actually force Morgan. No, just kidding. I got Morgan to work with me to go and create a checklist because that was one of the things that I realized that if I had a checklist that made me go through the right things first, that it would really help. And so we have a checklist to go and give you guys. You're not going to be put into any lifelong sequence or your family gets set up to or any of that bullshit because I don't want it, so I would never do it to you. And the only thing I ask in return is just feedback.
Hmm.
What is one thing you love about it? What is one thing that's unclear? And if you could send me that or Morgan, it'd be great. And Morgan, what was the best way to get this checklist that we
Just DM
created?
Nick. Just send him a DM. Just
There
or
you
and
go.
if you're not connected with him, why not? But connect with him, send him a DM. He'll send it
Cool.
to you. Yep.
No lead form required. I'll just send you the actual PDF, and it is a worksheet too, so
Yep.
you can just grab and run.
Well, so just to recount at this end of this power hour, thanks for everybody coming. But know your numbers. Start with what you need to hit and reverse engineer to what you need to work on at any one time. And take that and dial in your targeting, figure out where they hang out, where do they engage, figure out what they're interested in, and how you can strike up conversations in those platforms or those resources that they hang out. And chances are, which I'm a little giddy about, some of the stuff you get to do to hit quota or well exceed it is more marketing stuff or feels like more marketing stuff than traditional sales. But it's a nice and happy blend between the two. So thanks everybody for attending this power hour today. It's great to be live again. And Nick, did you want to close us out per usual? Do it.
It's 2023. It is no longer acceptable to suffer in silence. If you need help, if you feel like you're going to get fired, you're struggling, you're stressed, and you're bringing it home to your family, you don't need to. Get in the comments. We will go and point you in the right direction to get help. You don't need to buy anything. Shoot us a DM, and that's why we do this, is to support you guys. It really was about how do you succeed in sales and not kill yourself in the process. And so let us know how we can support you. We're here for you. All you got to do is shoot us a DM or comment. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you. And there's more to come.
There is. Thanks everybody. Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday. Bye.